Hey, Blue Crew. I'm your host, Blu Baby. We're about to have the conversation that everyone thinks about, but not everybody talk about. Welcome back to Blu Mindz Podcast. I'm your host, of course, Blu Baby. Today's conversation is for anybody who's been through something they thought was going to break them, whether that's grief, betrayal, rejection, heartbreak, trauma, disappointment, or just simply life coming at you in all sorts of direction. So many of us are carrying stories that no one even know about. But we smile, we show up, we take care of our families, and we keep it moving, we keep it pushing, even after surviving things that has changed us forever. Today, we're talking about surviving what was meant to break you. Let's talk about the different forms of adversity. One thing I've learned about adversity is this: it does not discriminate. It doesn't care how old you are. You can be 18 or 80. Doesn't care where you come from. You can be from Hollywood, living in a mansion, to living in the projects. How much money you have, or the plans that you had for your life. Sometimes life just shows up uninvited. So for some people, adversity looked like growing up without love, guidance, or support they needed. For others, it came through as loss, heartbreak, financial problems, toxic relationships, silent mental battles, or just watching someone that you love suffer. Studies show that about 70% of people worldwide will experience at least one trauma, one traumatic event during their lifetime. Just sit with that for a second. That means that 7 out of every 10 people you meet could be carrying pain, loss, trauma, or adversity that changed them forever. And listen, pain is pain, grief is grief, and trauma is trauma. Everybody's journey deserves compassion. Whatever your adversity looked like, here's the truth: you survived it. Take a moment and think about everything you've overcome: the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the losses, the seasons you didn't even think that you were going to make it through. And yet, you're still here. But here's the thing: surviving something doesn't mean it didn't leave something behind. Sometimes survival looks quiet. It looks like, getting up in the morning, going to work. It looks like taking care of everybody else and pretending that you're okay. And before you know it, survival mode can become your normal. Survival mode can become so normal that you don't even realize you're living with it. It looks like waking up exhausted, still pushing through, going to work with emotional pain that nobody knows about. And I can relate to that. There's been times when I had to go to work and I had to take those quick breaks, to go into the quick bathroom breaks, to go in there and just let the tears flow, then get that Kleenex and wipe my tears away, and then just come back, sit down, and push through like nothing's even wrong. Smiling in public and crying in private. How familiar are some of you with that? Survival mode teaches you how to function, but it doesn't always teach you how to heal. Sometimes we're moving forward on the outside, but emotionally, we're still stuck in the same place. Maybe you know what that feels like. Going through the motions, showing up for everyone else, but feeling disconnected from yourself. About 64% of US adults report experiencing at least one adverse childhood experience. And that means that a lot of us stepped into adulthood carrying wounds that started long before anybody ever asked, "Are you okay?" And when you're raising children, working multiple jobs, caring for your family, or trying to stay afloat financially, healing can easily get pushed to the bottom of the list because you have so many other things that you feel like need to be done. You feel like all those lists of things that I just mentioned is just so important that you just push taking care of yourself aside. You tell yourself, I'll deal with it later. And before you know it, pain starts to feel normal. And the truth is, when you've had to keep going for so long, people can mistake your survival for strength. And after a while, you may start to realize that getting through the day is not the same as being whole. Maybe you're just tired of getting by. Maybe you're ready to actually start healing. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened, by no means. It means giving yourself permission to process it, to learn from it, and then to move forward without letting it define your whole entire life. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not push through another day. Sometimes it's saying, I'm just tired. I'm really hurting right now, and I need the support. And if that's you, let me remind you of something. You don't have to earn rest. Rest is not earned. You don't have to earn healing. You simply deserve both. And you want to know the reason why you deserve both? Because you're human. But what looks like strength on the outside can still feel heavy on the inside internally. And that's the part we don't talk about enough. But let me talk about what we don't discuss enough. That's what this podcast is all about. It's the cost of being strong. People love strong people. They admire them so much. They don't always understand what that strength costs. Most people don't wake up and choose to be strong. A lot of times, strength is built in seasons that we never asked for. Remember earlier when I talked about the adversity, how it shows up unexpected and uninvited? What people see is the version of you that made it through. But what they don't see are the nights that you cried, that you questioned every single thing, and that you fought through that anxiety, through that loneliness and overwhelm. More than 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience a mental illness each year. That means millions of people are quietly carrying emotional pain while still showing up every single day. People celebrate the survivor, but they don't always understand the battle. And I wonder how many strong people have had the quiet thought, I don't know how much more I can carry. If that's you, I want you to know that it's okay to put some of your weight down, especially if you feel like it's just too heavy, it's an overload. And sometimes being the strong one becomes its own burden because once people see you that way, they assume that you're always okay, and you're not. Strong people get tired too. Strong people need support too. Strong people need a safe place to fall apart too. Because when you're used to being the strong one, it can be difficult to know who to call, who to lean on, or who will give you that permission to simply be human. You know, one of the most dangerous things that we could do is convince ourselves that asking for help makes us weak. It doesn't. Some of the strongest people I've ever met are the ones who had the courage to say, I'm not okay right now. Vulnerability takes courage. Healing takes courage. Facing your pain instead of running from it, it takes courage. And if we're honest, many of us have spent years wearing strength like armor. Eventually, that armor gets heavy too. So eventually, you realize surviving is not the same thing as living. And carrying everything alone, that's not a badge of honor. It's actually a burden. Just because you carried it for a long time, it doesn't mean that you have to carry it forever. And let me repeat that again because that's really important for you to know and for you to hear. Just because you carried that burden for so long, that does not mean that you have to carry it forever. And when you finally begin to put some of that weight down, something starts to shift. And you know what starts to shift? Pain no longer has to be the place where your story ends. It can become part of how you grow and sometimes part of how you help someone else. Pain changes us, but we still get to decide what happens next. We can let pain become our prison, or we can allow it to become our teacher. Some of the most compassionate people you'll ever meet are people who have suffered, and some of the strongest people you'll ever meet were once broken. Your story matters because it's real. So, somewhere, someone may need the reminder that survival is possible. And maybe it's worth sitting with this for a moment. What if your story isn't over? And I'm talking to you who feel like everything is you had enough, it's to the end. But what if it wasn't over? What if the thing that almost broke you is also shaping you to help someone else? Sometimes your pain becomes your purpose. And sometimes the very thing that tried to destroy you becomes the thing that helps somebody else to heal. And that healing journey looks different for different people because for some it shows up in caregiving and some it shows up in silence. But for others it shows up in carrying everybody else while quietly wondering, who's carrying me? So from that place, I want to speak to the women for a moment, especially the mothers and the caregivers. In the United States, most single parent households are led by mothers. So that means millions of women are carrying emotional, financial, and physical responsibilities while still trying to heal themselves. But listen, you too matter. Your mental health matters. Your healing matters. And especially your peace, that matters too. So being strong doesn't mean carrying everything alone. You don't have to do it alone. Some women are surviving battles that nobody even know about, and they still showing up for everyone else. If that sounds like you, I hope you take a moment and ask yourself, when you last poured into yourself the way that you pour into everybody else. And if that's you, I want you to know this, that you are seen. And while women often carry that weight through caregiving and responsibility, men can carry a different kind of silence, the kind that teaches them to hide the hurt and keep moving like nothing's even wrong. So I want to hold that space for the men for a moment too. Men account for nearly 80% of suicide deaths in the United States. And that tells us that too many men are suffering in silence. Vulnerability is not weakness. Asking for help is not weakness. Somewhere along the line, men were taught that, like asking for help is being weak. Taking care of your mental health is not a weakness, let me assure you. The real strength is not pretending that you're okay, but real strength is having the courage to admit when you're not. So please don't be afraid to admit or reach out to someone when you need help. Maybe healing starts with giving yourself permission to say, I'm not okay right now. You don't have to carry everything alone. Your healing matters too. And whether we're talking about women, men, parents, caregivers, providers, or anyone who has had to be strong for too long, the truth is still the same. Healing is not always pretty. Healing is kind of messy. Sometimes it's crying over something you thought you were over. I mean, I know how many of us females like went out there, go get a pedicure, manicure, go shopping because you're trying to get over something you thought you were over it for a couple of days, and then you find yourself on your sofa with your favorite blanket, crying again over over whatever situation that it may be, however life hit you. Sometimes it's taking two steps forward and one step back. You're not failing because you're still healing. You're not weak because you're still hurting. And you're not broken because you still have scars. Scars are proof that you survived. Take a moment and give yourself credit for what you survived. We spend too much time looking at what's still broken that we forgot to honor how far we've come. What was meant to break you may have wounded you. It may have challenged you. It may have changed you, but it did not destroy you. The fact that you are still here is proof that it didn't win. And maybe you're still in the middle of your storm. If that's you, don't give up. Do not give up on yourself. Your story is still being written. There is still healing ahead. There is still purpose ahead. And there is still another chapter that's waiting specifically for you. And as we talk about healing, we can't ignore the quiet burdens people carry, the ones they may never say out loud, but still feel every single day. Before I let you go, I want to bring this to full circle. Today we talked about surviving what was meant to break you, adversity, survival mode, the cost of being strong, and the courage that it takes to heal. That's where our next conversation begins. In our next episode of Blu Mindz Podcast, I'm talking about the weight men were never meant to carry. We're going to have an honest conversation about the silent burden so many men carry, the pressure to always be strong, to provide, to protect, to hide their emotions, and to suffer in silence. We'll talk about mental health, fatherhood, grief, financial pressure, relationships, childhood trauma, and while so many men feel like they have to carry the world on their shoulders. Because behind every strong man, yeah, it's a strong woman, but that's not where I was going. Behind every strong man is often a story that few people ever hear because they're afraid to even talk about it. So if you have a father, a husband, a brother, a son, a friend, or if you're carrying that weight yourself, I hope you'll come back for that conversation. It's going to be a really important one, and I hope you'll meet me there. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And if today's conversation reminded you of anything, I hope it reminded you of this. You are still here, and that really matters. Never underestimate your strength, your resilience, or how far you've already come. This is Blu Baby, and you've been listening to Blu Mindz Podcast, where we have the conversations we need to have. So until next time, protect your peace, guard your mind, give yourself grace, and remember, what was meant to break you became the very thing that revealed how strong you really are. Take care, Blu Crew.